Welcome to the draft ranking series. It's draft season, so now it's time to talk about who's the best of the best. We stay on the D-line like we did in the last video, but this time, I'm going to talk about the interior guys. There's a lot of competition at the beginning of these rankings and some bold takes near the end, so stay tuned throughout. If you're new, subscribe to the channel as I'm doing every positional ranking. But for now, I'm Chase Keller, and welcome to the top 10 defensive linemen in the 2024 NFL Draft. Enjoy. The mid-pack of this year's rankings is extremely competitive, so I have 4 honorable mentions. From 11 to 14, I have Oregon's Brandon Dorlus, Baylor's Gabe Hall, Miami's Leonard Taylor III, and LSU's Mason Smith. And the first 4 guys in the top 10 have the same grade. So let's get into the top 10, and beginning with number 10, I have a guy with the same exact grade as Brandon Dorlus, but Clemson's Rook Orororo gets the advantage over him. I may be lower on him than your average person, but he still brings very good value into the NFL. Orororo brings great lateral movement to the table, and he's a hard to predict pass rusher who can get from point A to point B faster than your typical defensive tackle. He's able to squeeze through double teams and get to the offense with very good tackling technique. He also is smart in terms of situational awareness, knowing what to do and when to do it in the run game. Speaking of the run game, he's got very solid gap control at the line of scrimmage, and speaking all around, he's got a great bull rush to knock blockers off balance. So Orororo brings a great play style where he can translate in both the pass and the run. But I do have my reasons on why I am lower on him than your average guy. This begins with his frame, which sits pretty lean at 6'4", 294 pounds. This isn't the only trait that I feel won't translate well to the league, as he is also held up by very good hand technique. In a league where blockers are stronger and bring better leverage, this might doom him. Along with these things, he isn't the most explosive athlete on this list, and he can play too hesitant when rushing the passer and consistently pulling that trigger. While some of these traits are a bit concerning, I still do have faith in Orororo to translate over to the league. He receives a C+ grade, which translates to an early 4th round grade and a 65 overall. These next 3 guys are so close together that they might be back to back on my big board, and all 3 of them are interchangeable. But someone's got to get 9 as well as 8 and 7. This begins at number 9 with Duke defensive tackle Dwayne Carter. Carter is very similar to Orororo with the fact that he has some great traits, but there are some translation concerns. So why don't we start with those translation concerns? He's got the finished frame, but he doesn't really have the effective arm length that NFL teams want. He also has the play strength, but he does tend to lose balance when met with great play strength and a good strike. He also has inconsistent awareness all around, and he needs to use counter moves more often as he is more athletic than your average defensive tackle. And that's where I get to the positives. He is very solid athletically, but I'm more intrigued with how it combines with his good play strength. Carter's first step is very good, being able to explode and catch guards and centers off guard. He's got the good play strength at the point of attack, being able to get under pads and use his leg drive to get someone backwards. So combining these, his bull rush is actually really good. But it isn't just his bull rush. His overall pass rush arsenal is dangerous, and he can impact with many moves. On top of these traits, he's a relentless effort player who doesn't give up until the whistle, and he's got above average lateral ability for the position. So Carter's skill set is actually really good. There are just a couple things that I am very concerned over. He gets the same exact grade as Orororo and Dorlus. C+, 65 overall, early 4th round talent. Moving on to number 8, I have the consensus D-tackle number 13 in this class, and I'm talking about Alabama's Justin Eboigbe. I'm honestly shocked that I'm not hearing about this guy more, especially over the fact that he comes from Alabama. This guy does look pretty solid. I think when it comes to where Eboigbe will fit best, he works as a 5-tech run defender who can really impact from actually both inside and outside. He provides really good power at the point of attack, striking the blocker with a good explosiveness to power hit. He's got relentless effort when chasing down runners and receivers, not stopping his full effort until the whistle blows. He also just generally shows good awareness in the run game. Along with these, he has solid explosiveness to set the edge, and he squeezes through tight gaps despite his size. So Iboibe has the run game skill set and the alignment versatility to bring himself up into my top 10 list. But there are of course reasons why he can't go higher. He struggles to deconstruct blocks, which is likely the reason why he isn't sought out to go that high. He also lacks overall good athleticism, whether that be his straight line speed, his lateral ability, and his acceleration after the explosiveness. I also view him as a pure run defender given his small pass rush arsenal and his tendency to rely on his play strength a little too much. So Iboibe is a guy who brings a role specific skill set, but he actually has the alignment versatility to maybe grow past that. He has a C+ grade like the previous two, but he elevates himself into day 2, which is a 66 overall and a late 3rd round talent. As we go on to number 7, we have a guy that I'm pretty low on compared to everyone else. I had this with the row, but this one is more extreme. I'm talking about Florida State defensive tackle Braden Fisk. Fisk is the consensus defensive tackle number 3, and I'm going to be brutally honest, I don't see the vision. That gives me an excuse to start with negatives again. He's got the athleticism, but he does not have the desired play strength. It's not up to par, just a blunt way to put it. It doesn't help that he has shorter arms and struggles to deconstruct blocks as a result, but that play strength just doesn't translate over well. On top of that, his pass rush arsenal is fairly small and he's got just a small chunk of moves he relies on. But there's obviously a reason that Fisk made the top 10. He's got to have some traits that elevate him this high. And as I said before, he has the athleticism. But what I didn't say is that he really has the athleticism. For his size, he's a superb athlete. He has the explosive first step to get off fast, he's got the speed to get the edge quick, he's got the elusiveness to work his way around blockers, he's just super athletic. He also showcases great bend around the edge and is able to take good angles in pass rush. Also in pass rush, he's got a good rip move that makes up a good amount of ground. I would love to see him incorporate more swims though. Finally, he's got lethal counter rushes and gets to the other spot at really quick pace. So Fisk has the athletic skill set that will absolutely translate if he can find his way to the right scheme. But he's a C+, 66 overall, late 3rd round nod, which is a lot lower than his mid-2nd round consensus grade. We are finally away from all of the C+ graded players and we move on to the B grades. This starts in the 6th slot with Ohio State defensive tackle Michael Hall Jr. Hall might be a little bit undersized, but in some games this season, he put on an absolute show. Hall's first step is extremely explosive and deceptive. When rushing from 4-tech, he is super dominant because of his first step and how elusive he can be. He also is a very solid run defender with his ability to efficiently jump off blocks to make tackles, making for some great gap control. He's quick to set the edge if you couldn't tell. He has above average play strength and a good initial strike when deconstructing blocks, and he puts together some impressive effort reps that teams are going to love. Hall's negatives all relate to how he will translate over to the NFL, but most of these can be fixed. As I said before, Hall is slightly undersized at 6'3", 290 pounds. And just like Fisk, his shorter arm length leads to difficulties deconstructing blocks. I will say that I don't think it's as present as Fisk. Hall does also have some lapses of awareness, as on some plays he makes perfect reads, and on other plays he's too focused on one thing to make sense of what's actually going on. Finally, he can get off balance by powerful strikes. So Hall comes in with a very good combination of physical and athletic traits, which is why he is number 6 on this list. Hall gets a B-, which is an early 3rd round grade and a 68 overall. Heading into the top 5, I have the first of 2 Texas defensive tackles on this list. This one is the much bigger T'Vondre Sweat. Sweat checks a lot of boxes for people, which makes sense, but he's not even the best defensive lineman on his team. Sweat boasts a frame that many people question, 6'5", 366 pounds. But honestly, given his skill set, I think it's going to work. He's got super intimidating play strength and bullies smaller guards into oblivion. Even if he can't get past the line, he's got super good gap control. He's got a deadly rip move when he uses it, and he can just shove blockers out of the way with no effort. But he actually shows relentless effort, which is amazing. But even for his size, he's a more athletic player who is super fast for how big he is. Sweat is a very interesting defensive tackle prospect, but as you might assume, there are a lot of athletic concerns with him. First off, he gets off the line super slow. His first step is not good, and even if it's good for his size, it's just not good for the average. He doesn't have the lateral ability to make up a lot of ground, and he just can't deconstruct blocks in the pass rush because of that minimal range. All of this combined makes sense as to why his pass rush production was not great, with career numbers of 63 pressures and 5 sacks in 5 seasons. So Sweat has some extremely difficult translation concerns, but if he can develop a great run game, he's going to be special. So Sweat has the exact same grade as Hall, B-, 68 overall, early 3rd round talent. Alright, I have one of my biggest sleepers in this entire D-tackle class in number 4. It's an LSU defensive tackle, but it's not Mason Smith, as I mentioned him in my honorable mentions. This means that Mekhi Wingo is my number 4 defensive tackle in this class. It might seem a little outrageous at first, but hear me out for just 90 seconds. Wingo is super explosive off the snap and has a generally great first step. The lateral ability and the straight line speed mixes in with that to make him a very athletic defensive tackle. But there's more than just the athleticism. He's got some great bull rush reps and turns his speed into good power. He's got the very good leg drive in order to push guards back, and had a couple snaps where he nearly sacked the quarterback with his own blocker. On top of this stuff, he's got some good bend and flexibility, and he has the situational awareness to make some great run defending plays. Wingo's concerns are a good amount of vitals and traits, but I don't see it enough to have him where consensus has him. The vitals start with this frame at 6 foot, 284 pounds. We've seen some very undersized defensive tackles enter the league, but it's still a concern nonetheless. He also missed half of the 2023 season with an injury, but came back for the bowl game. Vitals wise, he has a smaller pass rush arsenal and can struggle to deconstruct blocks at times, but this is more present in the run game than anywhere else. Wingo puts together an impressive set of traits to the point where if he can make up for the vitals, he's going to be special. He gets a B grade, which translates to a late 2nd round nod and a 69 overall. As we venture into the top 3, I have another bold take. This one is about the other Texas defensive tackle in Byron Murphy II. Murphy, the consensus number 1 defensive tackle in this class, is number 3 on my list. There are reasons for this, but that goes without saying that, yeah, he's a great prospect. Murphy is a defender whose skill set is heavily based around his athleticism, but I do not blame him. He's got a very explosive first step and the lateral ability to make up a lot of range and pass rush. He's just overall a super athletic dude for his size. On top of these, he has a deadly rip move that allows for him to get around dudes with ease at times. I can't even blame him for having an okay sized pass rush arsenal. He also gets around double teams at high rates by squeezing through. He has good counter moves when his first move does not work, and he's a relentless effort player that teams will love on the line. So I just went through the longest list of strengths yet. So where does Murphy lose? Well, there are some bigger concerns. Big enough to knock him down to number 3. He doesn't have the greatest frame, being 6'1", 298 pounds with shorter arms. But in terms of traits, he does get off balance a concerning amount, primarily due to playing with heavy feet in the run and need to be quicker. Alongside that, He can get pushed back by stronger guards at times, especially in the run game, so you can be concerned with his production in the run. But that's about it. As I said before, Murphy is still a great prospect, just not great enough to be in the top 2. Murphy gets a B+ grade, which translates to a mid-second round talent and a 72 overall nod. With 2 guys to go, I'm going to be bold yet again. This time, it's a guy who's a lot higher than the normal person has him. That guy is Michigan defensive tackle Chris Jenkins, which while it's not that extreme, it is one of the bolder takes that I've had in this draft season. Why do I have him so high? Well, take a listen. He has the most positives of any defensive tackle prospect I scouted. I'll just go through them one by one. He is extremely good with gap control and can jump off blocks at high levels. He's got a top tier first step that is very explosive. His great lateral ability is present when rushing the passer, and sometimes he doesn't even have to use his hands. He's a relentless effort player who plays until the echo of the whistle. Out of his pass rush moves, he's got an extremely deadly spin move. With that explosiveness, he can set the edge quickly. He's got great awareness in the run game and barely gets faked out. Finally, his leg drive is good and is most present on bull rush snaps. I was even surprised to see how many positives went toward Jenkins, but just like every prospect, there's gotta be negatives. And the main thing that's wrong is he barely uses his hands, and even when he does, he doesn't use them well. He can be a bit reliant on his athleticism at times, and I don't like that a lot, as a normal person wouldn't. He also struggles to deconstruct good hand technique and grip strength. He has a smaller pass rush arsenal that some may view as average, but that's at best. And he struggles to consistently break doubles. So Jenkins has his ups and his downs, but the pure amount of ups is what brings him to number 2 on this list. He gets an A- grade and barely misses out on that first round grade with a 74 overall. But don't worry, we do have a first round grade in this video. And finally, the number 1 interior defensive lineman in the 2024 NFL Draft is none other than Illinois defensive tackle Jer'zhan Newton. As a first round graded player, I promise I have no bias towards him, with Illinois being my favorite team. This guy is just a dog. Now, I've definitely watched the most games of his compared to the rest, but he's great no matter what game I watch. He's one of the most powerful players in any position in this class, and he gets great leverage consistently. He's always interrupting the pocket in passing plays or pushing into the backfield on runs. He also has really good flexibility for a defensive tackle, which gives counter rush upside. He also has active, strong hand placement. He's able to gain really good leverage on sneaks, which is going to be key in the NFL, and he's able to jump off tackles well in the run game. So the positives are fantastic for Newton, being able to combine all of these into an elite skill set. But as I said before, just like every prospect, there are negatives, even if they're tacky. While Newton has violent hand placement, it's wildly inconsistent and it dooms him sometimes on pass reps. He also doesn't have the best speed, so while I did say he has counter rush upside, he might not set the edge quickly. Finally, he has a very solid pass rush arsenal, but I really wish he would use his bull rush more, as it is pretty good, but it is also pretty rare. And that's it. That's all I gotta say about Newton. He's got all of these great traits that combine to make him have heavy upside in the right scheme, but he can also play in basically every scheme. He's the only first round grade on this list, being a 75 overall A-graded player. So, those are my top 10 defensive linemen in the 2024 NFL Draft. Do you agree with my list? What is your top 10? Let me know in the comments section below. Wait, are you not subscribed yet? Well, do it now. I release content like this all the time and would really appreciate your support. I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and I will see you all next time.